I figured I would give a tour of my bench since I work at home. Or in this case, I work in the basement of a friend's house. I'm getting ready to move this bench. But this is the tools that I use. So I don't use this very often. It's a vise, obviously. This is a handy organizer box that I use. I keep all of my microscopic parts in there. Some of them are so small when you get into the 1005 scale that I use a magnet because static electricity will keep them. See, there's a little connector in there. I have more connectors for boards. So you can see we have lots of little connectors in there. I've got, here's some fuses. You can see the little parts down in there. Ooh, a TriStar chip. I'm sure everybody knows what that is. Uh-oh. Don't have very many of them in there. Looks like I see two. Then of course we've got, a lot of discretes, coils that have been harvested. More parts that have been harvested. More coils. What do we got in here? Oh, nothing. Something in here. What's in here? Oh, another coil. There's some little babies. I don't remember what those are. Caps. And then more caps. And this is just a really great tool. Here's some iPad 2 chips and parts. When I harvest a board, I save the chips. But these are great because these are actually hinges. They're not that bendy, flexy plastic that after you open it enough times is going to break off. And same with this part. I'm really impressed with this toolbox. I can see having this for a very long time. And apparently this is also rated to keep 1005s from getting into the wrong container and leaking out. So must have if you're doing micro soldering. I love this toolbox. This is my little jar of random tools. Back scratcher, everybody needs one of them. These are handy to have. These little squeezers, they hold things for you, so I like them. Spudgers, everybody's got a million of those. Brush. This is a great brush. If you don't have one of these, I recommend you get one. This is a fiberglass rod, and if you look, those are itty bitty little pieces of fiberglass there, and it creates a tiny brush. So when you're cleaning water damage or something off a board, because these strands of glass are so close, they clean, they scrape. It's just an invaluable tool. When I first started, obviously, you start with something like this, then you go, that sucks, so you make it shorter. Then you go, well, that still doesn't get anything, and then you go to this thing, and it's amazing. They make them in pencil form. I found these from a guy in Russia. I bought 3 of them, and you just light it on fire to get the glue off, and then you mash it like that, and then all the little glass fibers are exposed, and that's why that's black, because I used a Bic lighter. So this is my handy little box. Keep crap in. This is a great tool. This is a medical tool. I don't know what the hell it's for, but it's spring-loaded. I put some squeezies on there. Sometimes this is handy. At first, I was reballing chips with it, and then they'd fly out, so I don't use it that much anymore. Oh, here's the remnants of my Nixie tube clock that I'm working on. I broke one, so I ordered some more Nixie tubes on eBay and got some more. This is handy. Little finger condoms. When you're working on something and you don't want to leave fingerprints on it, I bought several of them. That's handy. Of course, acetone cleaning. And I use a little tray to keep it in so it doesn't evaporate. And I lay my chips and stuff and clean them in there. And guess what? I use this little brush to clean the stuff off. So very, very handy tool. I don't like it though. Sometimes I move it around, it sloshes and it gets everywhere, but right now it's the best thing I got going. Little Variac supply. only thing I use that for is I've got this Weller preheater that's 220, so it won't run on 110, but I could turn this thing up and crank up the voltage, you know, and then it actually will run. So I started out using this a lot. I don't use it much anymore. Obviously, I don't use this much either. I use a scope, microscope. So, oh, this is a very handy piece. You must have a good oscilloscope. You won't use it very often, but when you need it, you really need it. I actually don't use this voltmeter much. I use this handy fluke most of the time. Don't use that thing very often. Thought I would. I don't. More handy tools. I don't reach up here very often. I do like these files though. I use these sometimes for things. Don't use that very often. I do like the files. Oh, here's a very important tool that you should have. Excuse the one-handed operation here. I'm also the camera guy. This tool right here is essential. If you're troubleshooting shorts, you pretty much have to have this. This is a FLIR 1 Pro. I really like it. Turn it on, it's cooling down, so to speak. And then I use my iPad here with the FLIR 1 app on it. And here's my super secret iPad password. Oh my God. Okay, so there's the FLIR 1 app. Then I plug this in. Once again, one-handed camera operator. Get this in here. Great, so I plug that into the bottom like that. And it's gonna come up. It's a thermal imager. It's gonna have to auto balance and adjust, but as you can see, there's my bench. And this is just invaluable for finding shorts. There's the oscilloscope. Boy, you can sure see the heat coming out of there. The oscilloscope gets hot, doesn't it? See the heat. But anyway, this is a great tool. Absolutely love the thermal imager. It has helped me so much in finding shorts. If you're gonna hunt down shorts, and sometimes you can find them right away with a voltmeter, just hit the rails, start nailing caps, and you'll find it. There's only so many rails, and of course, you know, they have a bunch of caps because they don't have room, so it's pretty easy to find shorts most of the time. But sometimes this is the only way, because you can't, the temperature, the parts are so small, must have item, gotta have that. So, oh, here's a great tool. This is my tells me the current. Gotta have one of them too. So I plug in the device with that thing right there, obviously. And then this tells me how much current it's drawing, so I know if it's booting properly or acting funny. I've seen the fancy power supplies that do that over time, and trust me, I want one. But I'm just not gonna spend the 300 bucks right now. Right now, this thing works pretty good. This is a new tool that I've recently got, and I do a lot of iPad repair, and I think this is handy, both for phones and iPads. And what this is you just turn it on, and then this gets hot. Like, let me feel. Oh yeah, it's already really hot. It gets hot super fast, so I've got some gloves, and it makes it great for glass separation and removing the boards, because Apple likes glue. They think glue's awesome. Oh, here's a must-have. These little Q-tips. Look at this. See how they're nice and pointy? That is awesome. You can get these online. People that clean guns like these, of all things. And after I'm done cleaning optics, I'll put them in here and use them as a regular Q-tip. But for iPhone X cameras and different cameras, if you need to get in and clean optics, you try and use one of these old fuzz balls, and there's sticks everywhere, and it's no fun. But this thing, these sharp tip Q-tips are a godsend. I absolutely love them. There's my crappy power supply. I bought it from Micro Center. It totally blows ass. I've had to replace the pots in it. I found some really nice pots, because you know, they cut out. And so I'll probably keep that thing forever now that I actually got nice trim pots in it. Obviously my Fluke voltmeter, you know, must have. Here's another must have. See these little things right here, these little tips? You can buy these from Fluke, and they just snap right on, you know. Real handy, and I glued a piece of foam to the end of my mic. I use my microscope to hold everything so I don't lose it, and I use this foam and I just nail jab them in there. This is actually a magnet from an iPad case, really handy for my screwdrivers, so I grab them and then I just hang them up there. So I love that little magnet setup for that. I also got a whole bunch of little magnets. I love magnets. I stick them to everywhere, and they're just handy because I hold stuff on my microscope. This is super great surgical tweezers. I use these for cutting flux. I use these when I need to cut a straight line, like in a label or something. This is handy too, a little Dymo label for putting labels on stuff. Gotta have that. I love that Dymo label. These are my little pokey dealies. This one I've sharpened into an ultra fine point. This one I've sharpened into a flat spade, which is nice when you need to clean a pad. So the tip is a flat, but it's also super, super sharp. I use these to grab things. Here's a homemade super screwdriver. The reason I love this super screwdriver is it's got a whisker on it. Let me see if I can put that under the microscope for you. There, it's on there. So let's see if we can see it. Oh, you gotta love this. There, so I don't know if you can see that. There it is. See a little wire at the end? I used some screen cutting wire and soldered it to the screwdriver. And I use that when I have to nudge a chip ever so carefully or to get it to seat. Just having a nice fine tip that's kind of springy. I use this all the time. This is one of my favorite tools. These are great, these surface cutters. I've screwed these up. I've ordered 2 more pair, but back to the magnets. Gotta love my magnets. Obviously a Phillips screwdriver. These screen poppers, these are kind of handy for iPhones and stuff. Also, sometimes you need a big screen popper. I've got a couple of those. Here is my micro beak. This is a tool I made. I got an idea from a guy on the internet. And sometimes you need to hold something and you need a hand free. That little micro beak, just perfect. Very handy tool. Don't use it every day, but when you need a third hand, sometimes that's your best friend. Oh yeah, these are real handy for getting ribbon cables up. Everybody needs one of them. For everybody who loves underfill, this is my underfill tool. And of course I've hand filed that to paper thin razor precision so I can get close to the chips and get them off. Oh, here's a must-have tool. Okay, if you work on phones and Apple anything, this thing's worth its weight in gold. Of course, put a magnet on it because you know me and magnets. I love magnets. So you turn this sucker on like this, and the Jessa sells these at iPad Rehab. They're worth it. Just buy one, get over it. Of course, does the dock test, which is the first test. And of course, it's gonna fail. Nothing's plugged in. Then it will go through and check everything. I have noticed on some iPads, it will not detect the battery. I guess there's a few models that doesn't detect the battery, but overall, this has been incredibly helpful with TriStar repairs. It's one of the things I see pretty regularly. Yeah, you're gonna want one of these. Scalpel, gotta have it. This is just something I left up here. It's another one of them brushes. Oh, I love magnets. Check this out. This is my magnets. Here's a whole bunch. These are super itty bitty little magnets. And they're just tiny. And there's bought a whole bunch of them, like $10 for a couple hundred or something on eBay. I use these actually in my tray over there for the 1005 parts because they're static electrically charged. They stick to everything. This kind of keeps them on this magnet. So I find it helpful. Oh, one thing I missed that I want to bring up again, guitar picks. God, I have guitar picks. Get the skinny ones. And I use reballing flux a lot of time, but reballing solder is solder for jump ears and pads when I need to put a small amount of solder on. You know, just some wire. Okay, I know you're asking what is plumber's tape for. I will show you that in a second. I'll set that right there. This is a very handy tool, and this tool goes with it. So, okay, soldering. Well, microscope, obviously. Mine's adorned in magnets and crap, but gotta have those. The camera that came with it gets a total 0. It's like not very sensitive, and it's a slideshow. I use it sometimes when I need to take a picture, but my goal is to get a nice HDMI camera. I'm gonna replace that little piece of crap. Little tip cleaners. The Hakko tip cleaners, I don't use them, but they're there. I bought my Hakkos used. Hakko is a love-hate. I'll get into that. Basically, solder roll. Everybody's got to have one of them, and I painted it that color for some reason. Notice my Hakko bases are a funny color too. Couldn't stop painting. I went ahead and painted my tip holder too. But oh, look, it turned on. I bumped it. The love-hate with Hakko. The tips and the way they heat, they're great. They hold temperature. They get hot quick. Micro tweezers. Kind of disappointed with these. I like them, but they're too big. I'm gonna have to file them or something. So I don't use them much because they're too big, but I do like them. But the love-hate with the Hakko, okay? So sometimes I'm not using the Hakko, sometimes I am, but I don't want it to be on all the time. So I program these, which is an oxymoron in itself. It's not self-explanatory. These are the kind of soldering guns you have to have a manual to operate, which is really stupid, but that's how they programmed them. Kind of reminds me of a VCR from the 1980s. That's pretty much how the Hakko programming works. So I program mine to go to sleep in 60 seconds, and then I enabled the power off mode, which I don't have control over time, but Hakko has that set for 30 minutes. You notice, like when you pick up a gun, notice how that's, 3 dots means off, okay? And that's only because I have it programmed to go turn off. But when I pick up the gun, it shows the set temperature, then it's going to heat up. And as you can see, it only takes a few seconds. By the time I grab it and get my ass situated, it's ready, even from an off standpoint. So I do not need to leave this thing running all the time. So I have them set to literally shut off in 30 minutes, and that's the only setting is 30 minutes. And see, that one already went to sleep. I touched it earlier, and that's set for 60 seconds. But if you have one of these, did you notice you didn't hear a beep? Well, the reason you don't hear a beep is because I ripped out the buzzers. And the reason I ripped out the buzzers is because Hakko's power off mode beeps every 30 minutes while it's off. So while it's off, it's got to tell you it's off every 30 minutes. So every 30 minutes, these 2 meters are going beep, 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 and you just want to kill them. So I contact Hakko. There's no way to turn that off. That's how their programming is set. And it goes right along with the Hakko VCR programming 1995 sucks mode, which is obviously how they make the controls. But I've learned to deal with it. I rip out the buzzers, and it does go to sleep in 30 minutes. It goes to standby in 60 seconds. They're great. They're great tools. Would I love JVC? Sure. Is JVC worth the money? No, I got a pair of pliers, and I could rip off the buzzer, and I do learn how to program those. So Hakkos are a great option, and I do like the FM203s because I can obviously hit more than 1 meter up to them. So enough with Hakko. Oh, I do like this thing. It's kind of a neat little tip holder. I don't get into here very often, but I do like it. Okay, so this, got to have this thing. This is a board heater. They sent me the wrong one, okay? I initially didn't order this heater. This actually had little notches on it to hold like an iPad board or something. I took a file and just flattened this hole out so I could have a nice heating surface area. And this is the one I use all the time. If they had the little spring grabbers and the notches, I couldn't use it, but just having a flat hot spot like this is awesome, because I will turn this thing on and I will set it for, you know, I was doing some board cleaning, so I had it kind of high, but I usually set this for around 200 degrees at centigrade, and I use this as the bottom heat for what I'm working on. These iPads and iPhones, these boards are so thick as far as thermally conductive that unless you can preheat from the bottom, you're gonna burn the shit out of them getting stuff off, and it's really hard on components. So this allows me to get stuff off and on safely without putting too much stress on the board. So this is a must-have. I do have another Blockset for the iPhone 10. I really don't use it. I still use this. The solder separates at 130 some degrees, so centigrade. So you really don't need this tool. This tool's nice and all, but this thing with a file and smooth all the bumps off, that's been my go-to tool. So here's another super important tool you have to have. This WHA 3000. My God, this has been the best solder hot air station, period. I just use the standard tip. I think it's 6 millimeters. I never change it. What I like about this thing is I have granular control. I can set that temperature for anything I want. I can set air for anything I want. And the other cool thing I really like about it is down here. See that black thing? I don't think, here, let me reach over here and grab it. Look at that. Hear that? Foot control. I do like the foot control. I do use it sometimes. A lot of times I don't, but when I need it, I love the foot control. Here's an attachment I did. So I bought this. This is an Italian camera mounting unit. And the reason I like this is because it holds my gun exactly where I want it, so I don't need my hand. So what I will do is I will take this unit, my nest of snakes. That's the only thing I hate about soldering is freaking wires everywhere, but anyway. So I will preheat, and then I will heat from bottom and top. And now look, no hands. Now I can do tweezers. I can use two hands. One to steady. When I'm working on a 1005, I kind of need two hands, you know. So this is a great setup. Really like this. I strongly recommend these types of mounts to hold your hot air. Hiding right here is a valuable tool. That's right. Sandpaper. You will use that to sharpen and custom make your other tools. It has to be sharp. Stuff has to be sharp when you're working super small, so you'll need sandpaper. Over here, this is my Hakko 470. This is old. I've had to fix it a couple times. When you're taking big power ICs off of big boards, not micro soldering, it's so nice to be able to desolder with this thing. They don't make them anymore, but God, I love this tool. When last time it broke, I cried until I fixed it. I actually had to use a torch to re-weld the element leads together. But I love this tool. Oh, here's a very important tool. This Dremel. I use it to polish the iPhone 10 screens. I also use this to cut spot welds, change the bits, of course. Very handled tool. I like the Dremel tool. Ultrasonic cleaner, self-explanatory, gotta have that. This is a little stand I got for holding the FLIR imager on a phone. Turns out I don't use it that much. You know, a lot of times I'll just get a box or something, and with the iPad on the box holding this thing, I'll just hold it above, that way I can see. So I don't use that much. But here is a tool I'm just getting started with. So I don't have anything really in production on this yet, but it will be soon. This is a Carbide 3D. This is a CNC milling machine. So what this machine will do, I got to build the plates for it. This plate slides and this head moves and goes up and down. And it's a milling machine. So when I need to take a chip off a board, I could heat it up and pull pads because it's got underfill, right? Or I could program the CNC milling machine to cut the chip off the board and not damage the board at all or waste any of my personal time doing it. So this machine's job will be for chip removal. Can't wait to get this going. I just got it. I'll be programming this with Autodesk 360. Probably going to be 3 or 4 weeks before I get this going. This is my screen repair section. I do iPhone 10 screens, rebuild them from time to time if I have enough piled up. This tool I got broken. It's kind of a cheap piece of shit, but it does everything in one step. It'll laminate, it'll debubble, and do it all in one swing. So pretty good machine. They built it really cheap, and I had to undo some of their crap. And the guy I bought this from, they actually shipped it to him with it wired wrong inside. So I had to reverse engineer it and figure out how to rewire it, which I fixed their mess. And it now works great. It's a great machine. I upgraded their power supply, which sucked, and a few other things I didn't like inside there I cleaned up and upgraded. So this is now a very good machine. I like it a lot. Everybody knows what these things are. It's sitting up here backwards right now because I haven't used it in a while, and I just rearranged. Very handy for moving glue. Very handy. Haven't used that yet. I still use my fingers, but just got this. Was going to give it a try. Used the shit out of this. As you notice, has some writing on there. Usually, at first, I separated iPhone 10 boards with this thing. This is a very useful heat plate. It's small, but it works great. So this is kind of the tour of the workbench. Things I need to upgrade. That's way too small. Need a bigger one. And I like dual monitors. So what I'll probably do is keep this one, and then I'll just put a big 55-incher on the walls, because this a 4K, I need the schematics. It surely would be nice to have board view on one and the schematic on another at the same time, and I'm going to upgrade to that. So anyway, this is the bench, and I'm still learning and still finding tools that I like. And I'm sure in 6 months, this will be rearranged and different tools could be living here. So, sorry I ranted about the Hakko, but I don't like that beeping. So, a pair of pliers took care of that. All right, talk to y'all later.